Hello everyone, today we'll be talking about Jacksonian America. And Jacksonian America is also known as Age of the Common Era, and it's because the seventh president of the United States, his name was Andrew Jackson, and he made a lot of decisions that benefited every man in the United States. And I forgot to include this, so in your notes, if you can write down Andrew Jackson. Okay. Andrew Jackson was the seventh president of the United States, and he made a lot of decisions that benefited every man in the United States. First thing he did that he's most known for is called universal manhood suffrage. And suffrage means to vote. And what Jackson did is every white man was allowed to suffrage vote. It used to be that only white males who own property can vote, but Jackson gave every white man the right to vote. So you no longer needed to own property. Before you had to own property, but now you do not. And because all white males were now able to vote, the electorate, which is the people who vote, was now much bigger. And in fact, 4 times more people voted in the 1828 election than the 1824, and that's because you no longer needed to own property. During this time, there was also a rise of interest groups, including nativists who were anti-immigrant. There also started to be a lot of political campaigning, which is where people go around and they speak for political leaders. So Jackson is also known for the spoils system. And during the Jackson era, the spoils system became popular. This is when a political party wins an election. It gives positions to people who supported them. So, like when Andrew Jackson became president, all the jobs and all the positions that were available, he gave them to people who supported them. He wasn't going to give them to a different party, and this became popular during Andrew Jackson's time. It's known as the spoils system. New political parties also formed during this time. I don't know if you guys remember, but after the War of 1812, the Federalist Party ended because people thought they were unpatriotic. Remember, the Federalists did not support the War of 1812. They talked about secession, leaving the country. So the Federalists no longer exist. And the Democratic Party started in 1828 when the Democratic Republican Party ended. And the Whigs replaced the Federalist Party and were formed as opposition to the Democratic Party. And there's also a party called the Know Nothings, and they were opposed to immigration, in particular from Ireland and Germany. And they were formed as opposition to the Democratic Party. And the Republican Party formed in 1854, and they were opposed to the spread of slavery. They did not want slavery to spread and get bigger. We learned earlier that there was the Federalist and the Democratic Republican Party, but neither one of those parties exist anymore. And there's the Second Great Awakening, which is a religious movement that swept across the United States that impacted several parts of the United States culture. So a lot of people became religious during this time. And there's some movements that we're going to talk about. And the first one is the temperance movement. And this was a movement that wanted to make alcohol illegal, which means not allowed. So people didn't want any alcohol. Then there was the women's suffrage movement. And this was the movement to get women the right to vote. And they were led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. And then the last movement is called the abolitionist movement. And this was a movement to end slavery. Abolitionists did not want slavery. Women's suffrage, they just wanted women to be able to vote. During this time, women were not allowed to vote. It would almost take 100 years to get them the right to vote. And the temperance movement, they didn't want alcohol. So beer, wine, anything with alcohol, they wanted to be illegal. Pretty quick for today. If you guys have any questions, let me know.